Welcome to Mindfully Sovereign, the podcast that invites you to reclaim your feminine self-authority and unleash the abundance within. My name is Sapha, I am your host, and I'm here to help guide you past your limiting beliefs and into the heart of your unwavering and undeniable power. This podcast is all about reclaiming your feminine self-authority, learning the art of self-seduction, and awakening your inner goddess so that you can become an aligned match to your most abundant life yet. So grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and get ready to become mindfully sovereign. Hello. Happy Monday and welcome back to Mindfully Sovereign. I am so excited to have you guys back and even more excited because today I have a special guest, someone who is just wonderful. She is a woman I truly admire and I can't wait for you to meet her too. So as per usual, I'm going to just let her introduce herself. So Ray, if you want to say hello, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I love that you dropped into my DM recently. You're like, hey, I need to have you on my podcast. So this is an honor and a pleasure. One, because I truly love and admire what you do. And two, because conversation with you is always fun. So I'm really looking forward to this call today.
I agree. I'm super excited about this. Okay, so tell us a little bit about who you are. So I know you from the Women Thrive world. You are the brains, you are the genius, you are the starter piece to the Women Thrive speakers, and just so much more. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, of course. I guess for women who don't know who I am, my name is Raimonda Jan. I'm the founder of Women Thrive Media. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for quite a long time, since, I don't know, even 16. I was already in business with my family and then started my first business at 21 and founded Women Thrive Media in, well, 2017. It was in different form than what it is today. So it's been, I don't know, nearly, 10, 15 years? It's been a long time. I host events. I host the virtual summit, which is the Women Thrive Summit. I host in-person events, retreats, publish books, and I'm very passionate about helping women share their stories with the world. And I've published a number of collective books. Just published my own book, which I'll tell you a little bit in a moment. And we publish a magazine for women, also called Women Thrive. And overall mission is to empower, inspire women, and really spotlight women who have a message and want to share with the world, to give them a platform and a stage to do that, because I know what it's like, not to have confidence or not to have a voice to share your message because of things that you've gone through. And I want to empower, inspire, and empower other women to truly have a voice and therefore also have a platform with us.
I love that. So one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on the pod with me was first, I was very, very honored to be able to be a part of the Women Thrive world, not only for this year, but the year before that. So it's just been wonderful. And one of the things that appealed to me most about the world that you've created, because it is a world in and of itself, right? The system, it's that it's very community based. So the episode prior to this, I talked at length about the coaching industry and kind of how it stands right now and some of the things that I feel like it's important for us to talk about because they're becoming sticking issues and they can be very harmful for people. So one of the things that I really love about the way you've focused on community building and on highlighting the uniqueness and the internal beauty of each person who graces the stage or who is a part of the magazine is that it is very much sincere. It is very much a true way of celebrating other women and of being of learning to see each other through the lens of love and care and empowerment and celebration that we can share with one another versus like all of the old wounds of the feminine. So I would love to hear from you. What has it been like? What drew you to the idea of that connectivity? What drew you to the idea of having a platform, a stage, a venue for people to showcase who they were or
Yeah, I
are?
think I think, our own experiences really shapes who we are and the things that we want to build for others. And, having been an entrepreneur, I've wanted to find better ways of doing for other people. And I found entrepreneurship pretty lonely, right? Because people don't really understand it. They don't get it. And You don't always have, the cheerleaders in your world who are going to kind of believe in your dreams. And it felt kind of lonely and it sucked. And so I was like, let me create an event. And I called it Women in Business because I wasn't really creative in naming it any more than what it was. And actually, I realized that there's so many other women who are also in business and entrepreneurial and also feel like, they valued the connections, they valued the conversations in the room. And that's what showed me that one event back in 2017 is what showed me that there is a need for just that space. And so everything started to center around community before I even had a plan. I didn't have a plan to do all of this that I do today. Like, nobody's in their right mind sits down and says, okay, I'm going to build this media empire. I mean, some people might do, but it wasn't really on the cards that, even in my mind. It happened because the women came and they said, when is the next event? Can we publish a book with you? We want the stage. We want to speak at your events. And so it just grew and became what it is over the years.
I love that so much. And I think it speaks a lot to your own heart and the way that you see the
Mm,
world around you. Because having been around you for a couple of years now, which has been great, I feel that very same heart as how I feel in terms of like the sisterhood and the connection and how important it is for us to start learning to break the ideas that once kept us separate from each other, especially now more than ever. I think it's becoming more crucial now because we're facing sort of like a doubling down of trying to keep us smaller, trying to keep us away from each other, trying to keep us focused on things that are ultimately just robbing us of our voice, of our power, of our sense of selfhood. And so I just love that so much. And one of the things that you said that I think is so true is that aspect of entrepreneurial life being feeling very isolated, feeling very
mm,
lonely. Um, and feeling like there's, like, really not a whole lot of support because people don't understand. Sometimes we, as entrepreneurs, we get very excited about the thing that we're doing. We're pouring I don't know if I know most people can't quite understand the amount of passion and energy and essence of selfhood that goes into the things that we do, because it's so particularly unique to the entrepreneurial life. But we do this, and then we come across this weird barrier from the outside where it's like on the one hand it feels like we have to do everything by ourselves, which we don't, and then on the other hand we have this like need to share and tell others and have them be as excited about things as we are, and then instead it becomes this very strange like wall of I don't know how to explain it, but what have you noticed a change in the women that come into the summit and how they connect to each other and how they connect to the business after they've been through the summit? I know I have, but I want to hear from you.
no, you better to say that because it's interesting. So as you know, Sapha, we just came back from London events. And this was our first big major event coming back since COVID. And you haven't been in our space virtually, and the feedback that it's kind of extension of me and my heart and the experience, and the connectivity that women feel. In our space, women feel genuinely quite supported, and there isn't like really that competitive feeling.
Mhm,
And so, what was really interesting after day one, we had dinner after the event. It was for VIPs and speakers and other guests. And so many women came up to me and fed back what their experience was of the event. And
mhm,
they told me, like, I feel so seen. I feel so safe in this space. I feel genuinely connected. It doesn't feel like a clique. And many events in London, I'm sure in many other parts of the world, you go into an event that they say is supportive, but you feel an outsider.
mhm,
It's so interesting that the same feeling that women have reflected back to me of attending the virtual events said the same thing about the in-person events. And even just today, I got off the phone with someone who was there and she said, It's phenomenal. I've been to so many events over decades. And she's like, your event just felt so authentic and natural. And even there was dancing segments. And she said, In most events, I don't want to get up and dance, but at yours, it just felt like you wanted to do it. And I was like, I don't know what is that secret recipe, but in other hand, I know because I build things, and as you quite well mentioned, we build things from the heart. It's an extension of you. So the energy that I wanted to create at this event, I was intentional about it, but I didn't have to try because this is genuinely who I am. I'm not performing. I'm not there. I don't have to try. It's just what it is. And people get to experience as long as you're staying true and authentic to you. So whatever you build is going to be an extension of you as long as you stay true and authentic to it. And so I better ask you the question, what is the experience that you had at Women's?
That's so funny. No, I think I've said it, but I've said it before on your podcast, and I've said it, even during Women Thrive as like a co-host and
Yeah.
stuff. But I really feel it's a unique community. I use that word, you know me in words. I'm very intentional with the words that I choose and stuff. So I really do feel like it's a very, very good community. It's a sisterhood. It's a place where a lot of times people do come to find not just a platform and a space for them to share about themselves, but a place for them to find more about themselves. Because sort of
Mm,
tying it back to the prior episode, one of the things that I believe has become a sticking point and a little bit of a wound in the environment that we sort of move in, entrepreneurial wise and coaching wise, or just by virtue of being virtual a lot of the time, by doing things online a lot of the time, is that we've started believing this idea that there has to be some sort of like very like down to the letter system that has to be replicated. And if it's replicated well enough, then we can be rolling in money and we can like do all of these things. And it's become a pervasive conversation in this arena when what I find makes the biggest difference, whether it's on the stage or when you're meeting in person or whatever it is that you're doing, is that, like you said, you show up from a place of authenticity, and you show up from a place of like, this is who I am, and my magic is unique to myself. I am willing to share it with the world in whatever capacity that might take, and sometimes it
mm,
surprises you, right? Like you said, you were like not necessarily shooting at like, I'm gonna be a global media empire, like you didn't think about that, but the fact that your heart was in a place. Well, first of all, let me rewind a little bit. So I know I want, because I wanna get into this a little bit too, but so people might not know this, but one of the things that I love most about your story is that it does come from a place of shift in like internal alchemy, because you had gone from a point in your life where you lost your voice completely, it literally,
mm,
to amplifying the voices of others. And I think that that like transmutation space was so genuine. It was so authentic, and it came from like a true place of uplifting versus a place of how can I make myself shine when everybody else is going to be belittled underneath me, right? That made a world of difference. It makes still a world of difference. And I know that this is also one of the biggest medicines that we can bring into this
mm,
realm, because the deeper we sink into who we truly are, the genuine drive in our hearts and in our souls to serve, the thing that actually is our why, the more incredible the venues, the expressions, the connections become. And so then the barriers that once were there start slowly breaking apart. That's not to say that things are going to be easy, because we still have to show up and there is still work to be done, and things are still going to be uncomfortable, and sometimes things are going to fail. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And sometimes it takes years to figure stuff out too. Like it may take a very long time for something to finally click. However, that doesn't mean that we should stop altogether. And so that's my sense, right? Like that's what I've
mm,
experienced, that's what I see, and those are the things that drew me to Women Thrive in the first place, because I don't proactively, as much as I like, I'm a chatterbox, right? I I don't proactively like constantly seek stages to get on. I probably could, but it feels very draining to me. However, this felt like an organic place for me to land, because at the same time I needed my own cup to be replenished, and that's what Women Thrive has always felt like, has been double. It's been like me
mm.
giving but also receiving. Um So anyway, I hope that that amplifies that a little bit. And speaking of, like, brought it up, like I said, on purpose because I would love to hear from you if you're open to sharing a little bit more. Could you share a little more about that story about like your transformation from like having lost your voice to finding yourself and kind of getting yourself into this space? Because I think it's really important.
Yeah. You made me tear up. Speaking of it, it's, it's really the right word to say the alchemy,
Mm,
because that's truly what it is when we can alchemize our pain into purpose. And, when we're going through those painful parts of our journey, when you're in it, you don't really know the depth of it and
mhm,
significance of it, and may how that may impact the future of you. And so when I was mid 20s, I got into a relationship that wasn't genuine, maybe it wasn't for the right reasons, and he didn't treat me very well in the process. And I feel like I've compromised on my values, compromised on my worth, and compromised on, meeting him where I shouldn't have. And I know he wanted me for different reasons. He wanted a trophy wife, he wanted
mm,
a young, beautiful girl at his side, and, all those kind of things. So I knew it wasn't just for the right reasons. But the last encounter with him felt so significant to my own mental health that I found myself coming back from a trip with him, and I broke up with him, but I felt used. I truly felt used and abused. And when I got back, I couldn't speak. I couldn't speak. I went on another trip with my mom back home, and I found myself literally being quiet the whole time.
mhm,
And my mom knew what happened, and she knew I was really down about it, but she didn't really understand. And I didn't understand how it would impact me. And when we got back, I knew I couldn't speak. I knew I couldn't just speak about it. I just felt this fear and shame and guilt of what happened. And I allowed myself to be in that situation, put myself in that situation. I got stuck at the airport because I walked out. He purposely made sure I missed my flight and
mhm,
left me stranded at the airport in another country. So that on top, I was like, I feel like an idiot, coming to see someone and being in this position. And so after that incident, I truly lost my voice. I couldn't speak. I felt like I didn't know who I was. I'd look at myself in a mirror and be like, who are you? Like, who are you? Why are you here? What are we doing? And I have already started this entrepreneurial journey. So I kind of knew that unless I found my voice, found my confidence again, I didn't have another choice. Like there was not another choice, because once you choose entrepreneurial journey, it's not so easy to go and find yourself a job. To the
mhm,
point where my sister looked at me one day, she said, if I was you, I would go and get myself a job at a local supermarket, because right about now, nothing is going on in your life. And I was like, I would rather die than go and work in the supermarket at checkout. Not that there's anything wrong with a job, but I knew deep down, like, that I wanted to build a business. I
mhm.
just didn't know what kind of business it would be. And that episode really chipped at my confidence and my identity, even to the point of identity. And I remember looking at a mirror one day and say, Ray, please speak. Like, please. I couldn't put together a sentence for social media because I already knew how important social media and thought
Yeah.
leadership was. It was like I could even string a sentence together right now because everything doesn't feel authentic. And that's where my starting point was really. But I knew how to do something. And so I started. I started to, you know, turn wheels in whatever way I could. And it was the strangest and most bizarre experience. At the same time, my phone, the microphone was broken. So whenever people call, not only I couldn't really speak up, but they couldn't hear me.
Wow.
And they would say, I can't hear you. And I'd get frustrated. I'd just hang up and say, I can't speak right now, you know. And that got on for some time as well. And, so all these little things. And I'd go into social, whatever, go out for drinks with friends and I'd just smile and I just wouldn't even speak.
Mhm.
Drive in a car, that uncomfortable silence. And I'd sit in that uncomfortable silence and be like, Ray, please, like, just say something. And I just, the more like I wanted to, the more uncomfortable it felt, and less I could actually speak. It was wild.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, and it was an interesting experience. Slowly, I started to get on to doing something, building something professionally. And like I said, it wasn't like on the cards for me to say, oh, this is what I want to build. I was just trying to survive, to be honest. I just tried to survive. When I started that event, I was in a lot of Facebook groups for women, and I knew I wanted to create a business, but I didn't know what it was. Like, I was like, I failed in my first business. I don't know what my other business could be. I know I want to do business and help others be successful in business, but I don't know what that's going to be. And I started to build a crowdfunding platform for entrepreneurs to get
Mhm.
funded. Because I was like, well, entrepreneurs need to get funding because that's one of the things I struggled with. And the first event that I hosted, I called it Women in Business. Because I was like, nobody would come to an crowdfunding event because you know what they want. And like I said, that was just such a huge success. And it just started from there. And I still struggled with sort of my voice and my confidence and speaking. And, I share in my new book. So I've just published a new book called Speakers Rise.
Yay. I'm so excited.
Um, and there's an opening scene in the book um, where my mentor asked me, why do you want to speak?
Mm.
And this was like 2021, so way after this whole episode was like 25, 26, 2025, 26. So in 2021, my mentor asked me, Ray, you host all these amazing events for women and you do all this empowerment stuff, but why do you want to speak? Like, why do you want to speak? Why are you in my program for speakers? And I was like, I want to speak because I know what it's like to lose a voice.
Mhm.
I was like,
Mhm.
who said that? No, like I wasn't meant to say that. Did that really come out of my mouth? And that's for the first time that I've actually shared that, not that story in full, because I wasn't really expecting for that to come out of my mouth. Um, but so many years later, I owned that story, and I said, you know what? I've hid behind that story because I really felt the shame and fear and guilt and what kind of feelings with that. That was the first time I owned it, and that's what made me realize that, right, this is why you do what you do. This is why you
Mhm.
actually care about it. And you have to tell that story. And that year I co-authored a book with another publisher and shared that story for the first time.
I love it.
Mhm.
That's there's so much that I want to say, and my brain doesn't want to hold on to any particular ideas in order. But I'll say that's exactly why I wanted you to share this today, is because it is in the midst of like all of the things that we tend to get ourselves lost in and the fear and all of these things. There it's amazing how much our spirits still fight for our highest good, even when we don't recognize or know that it's happening. And the fact that so many things, but the fact that you showed up from a place of like my presence for yourself, I think is what ultimately made the difference. It was that moment, that like factor of like this is you're choosing for yourself for your highest good, and that in turn affects or informs the highest good information or choosing or want or desire or invitation that you offer other people. Like one kind of precedes the other, but they also walk hand in hand. And that's what makes the biggest difference. And the truth is, like, there are so many of us who've gone through one iteration or another of this where like
Mm,
someone will hear that and immediately be like, I understand what it's like, because I think In a lot of ways, we've become a society that's become very adept at losing ourselves in externals. Like, we've become really good at putting all of our worth and our value in things that are outside of ourselves, which makes it so much easier
Mm,
for us to then lend higher import, higher credence, higher value to the thing, the person, the situation that's outside of the self. And I speak from like also my own personal experience in a toxic relationship that lasted way too freaking long. It's like, I know that that's where we start that loss of selfhood. Like it just becomes because it's no longer about the self. It's about the other person's everything. And the loss of selfhood is so strong. You experience the loss of your voice. Like to me, it's so intense that even your phone was not like it just speaks volumes to the frequency that was present with you in that moment. And I also think it was part of the this is gonna sound so contrarian, and I don't mean this in a very spiritually bypassy way, but I feel like it was part of the protection you were being proffered by universe, that it was like, "No, you are not." And yes, you did lose touch with the parts of yourself that are so potent that you when you speak, everything changes and, like, the whole earth feels it, right? And right now is not the time because first, all of these things have to precede that. Like the healing has to go before it. The recognition has to be in place. That anchoring into your womb has to be there. And so I think in a lot of times we go through similar things in the sense that we, especially particularly as women, we do go through so many cycles that ask so much of us, and each one asks at every turn, "Who are you choosing to be right now?" Like, "Who are you? Who are you choosing to be? And what are you not willing to put up with anymore?" Like, this is kind of how what we go through at every turn, whether it's, you know, entering teenage years, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, like, there are so many chances for us to reconnect to the person that we are becoming and that we are choosing because there are so many points in our lives in which we feel like, I don't know who I am anymore. And that can be the most frustrating, the most terrifying, the most infuriating sensation in the world. You'd think it'd be like the loss of like a job or a love or something, but I've experienced both. And I still feel the loss of selfhood was the harshest and the one that really ached me the most. Um, and at every turn, we have the opportunity to reframe and to like take that back and to see where you do belong. It's like you said, you didn't necessarily want to be working at the supermarket, not because there's anything wrong with it, because your spirit felt like it had a particular story to tell. It had a, a purpose that it wanted to fulfill. And it was going to do that one way or the other. You very well could have done that for a little bit and been fine, but the fire inside of you was calling for something more. And I think that that's important for all of us to like sit with that it's these are opportunities in the dark. And of course, me as being obsessed with the dark feminine would always go this way, but like being in the dark always gives us the time to like really evolve and grow. And oh, I just love
mm.
that so much.
Yeah, as they say, the seeds need to be planted in the dark. And that was my seed that was being planted. And you don't know why you go through some of these dark experiences. But when I did come out into the light, when I did own that story, I felt so empowered. I felt so liberated, genuinely like to liberate yourself of carrying that on your shoulders like a burden for so many years and not sharing that story, being afraid that anybody would find it out and carrying that pain and self blame and all of that. One day you just own it and you're like, yeah, that's what happened. And that's, you know, and it doesn't need to define you. And it was something that happened to you and it changed you. And it changed me, it changed my heart, it changed my perspective. Without that, I wouldn't know what other women are going through. What I didn't know, when I shared that story, women reached out to me and said, "Wow, I've never heard anybody share that. I've lost my voice too."
Mm-mm.
And that's when I knew I was doing the right thing by sharing it because there were other women waiting to come through and own their story and be liberated of their own pain, because they had too have lost voice either through bullying or family dynamics or other experiences, trauma, etc. And that allowed me to understand how I can relate to them.
Mhm.
And that's really a gift.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, uh, it's beautiful to see because kind of going back to what we were saying earlier, not only does entrepreneurial life feel so lonely, but in general, again, for the same reasons that we like externalize so much of like our worth and our value and like who we believe that we are, we do tend to, as a whole, feel very unseen a lot. And so that's why like you, I really believe that it's important for us to witness one another, to listen to each other, to be in each other's energy, to be present and to share it. To know that even because even sometimes just the knowing that you're not alone in something, that you're not the only one going through something, sometimes that alone, you don't have to be giving someone the most perfect medicine, the perfect words, the perfect guidance. It doesn't have to be perfect. Literally, sometimes just letting someone know, I see you. You are not alone in this. This is what I've experienced as well, or I have moved through this and this is how I did it. Sometimes that in and of itself can be some of the most potent medicine. And I don't think that we give that enough import in our world. I think that we tend to look at that and be like, "Ugh, like whatever." Like it's just we bypass that, but I can't tell you how often I sit with either
Mhm.
clients or women in circle or even heck, my friends or like whatever, that when they are in the middle of going through something dense or when they feel the most isolated, sometimes the thing that they are thirsting for the most is to know that they are not the only person in this world feeling this way. Like
Mm.
just knowing, yes, I hear that. I validate this. I know that this is true and I have been there too. Like that can make such a powerful, powerful difference. And there was a moment, I'm thinking back, there was a moment during Women Thrive, because okay, to give everyone a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, right? So Women Thrive, we have the event that everyone is invited to, but leading up to it, this is one of the things that I love that you did the most and do the most, is leading to it. We are getting together like every week and we are witnessing each other. We are learning from each other. We are like reclaiming our voices by hearing one another, by realizing where we are, getting clarity in so many different ways. But I remember so clearly there was one point in one of the calls where someone was so ready to just give up. And I have been there like so many times, I can't count. Like, I literally have been on the verge of quitting so many times, I've lost count. And I just remember it poured out of my very soul. I was just like, "Don't you fucking dare quit." It was like it needed to ooze out. I was like, "Don't." And I feel like that's the thing, like, I'm getting emotional. I feel like that's the thing that we all need to hear because, again, sometimes we really do think it's me. I'm the problem. I'm the only one who is going through this. I'm the only one who's experiencing this pain. I'm the only one who doesn't have the words or doesn't know what to do or doesn't know what the next step is or who isn't selling or I don't know. There's so many different things. Or we feel, and again, even in our personal lives, like you were saying, the fact that there were other women who were like, I lost my voice too. And how many of them would have realized that had it not been for your story? You know what I mean? So it's important. It's invaluable in the sense that I can't put a value around it, that we all share. It matters, like, our stories matter.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. It heals us, and you know, your story will continue to live long after you walked off stage. If you're a speaker, and if you're willing to share that story, the impact of what you share on stage will live on long after. If you're willing to go there, and I've seen it many, many times before. Women who came to our event, walked in through the door and was like, I don't know who they are. But one lady said to me, your words still I carry with me all the time. They speak to me. And that's through the podcasts and speaking and an events I've hosted. I don't always get to know our audience because you can't possibly get to know all of your audience and experience
Right.
of you that they are having. But to hear them back reflect to you and say, look, your words still ring true in my head, especially when I'm having a hard day. It's really reassuring because there was moments in my journey when, in that after the the lowest points of starting to rebuild myself. I remember I bought all the equipment in the world to record this course that I wanted to do. I was like, I'm going to record it. I got my friend over for the weekend. We set up a studio, camera, lights, everything, scripts, and camera comes on. And I say two sentences and I freeze.
Yeah.
And I freeze again and I freeze again. And I tried it like, I don't know, 10 times. And the next day I was like, today I'm definitely going to do it. And same thing. And it's even worse than the first day. And I'm like, God, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just get the words out? Why can't I just talk about something that I feel so passionate about? And there's nothing wrong with you, right? There was nothing. I say there was nothing wrong with me. What was wrong with me is that I was living in my head. I was living in my pain. I was too afraid to use my voice, too afraid to speak my truth, too afraid to advocate for what I wanted to really say. I had to reclaim myself. I had to grow enough to get to that point. To give you an example, at this last event that I've hosted in London, I had four keynotes, the opening of the events and the closing for 2 days. So that was four speaking slots of 15 minutes each. That's 1 hour of very strategically positioned talks. I didn't have a slide. I didn't have anything written. I didn't have anything prepared. I went on stage. There was cameras. There was live audience. Not for a second did I think I would stumble over my words. I just went
Mm.
on that stage. I opened, I closed it. The audience loved it. And the speakers were like, that was amazing. I was like, I didn't write anything. I just spoke from my heart. Because at this stage, having gone through all of that, I've learned to own who I am. I've
Mhm.
learned what I stand for. I've learned what my values are and what it is that I want to share with the world. Not what I'm expected to share, but what I really want to share with the world. And so
Mhm.
I don't need to rehearse that because it comes from me. It comes from my depths. It comes from within me, right? Obviously, it helps that I know some things about speaking because now I've practiced it enough. But hopefully, that's where, you know, women can get to and just speak from their heart, get up on stage and say, I'm here and I'm owning it.
Mhm. And it's personal sovereignty in action, at least in my world, everything comes back to that. Because what better example of that embodied living could we possibly get? In the sense of like it's complete self-trust. It's complete self-understanding. It's complete self-knowing. It's complete awareness of the fact that there is no compulsory need for you to prove by exacting some sort of perfect performance or some sort of like perfect productivity that could be weighed and measured in order to give you your own worth, your own value, your own words, your own anything. And so that is the like exemplified like version of personal sovereignty, like in an embodied form. And one of the things that you were sharing just now that I just love so much is the fact that you brought up the what's wrong with me. I this is such you know what? It's a global experience, and it shows up everywhere. I think one of the first places where that finally clicked in my head, as with a lot of things, when I was, like, finally starting to come out of, like, my deepest wounds when I was a little bit younger, it was in the yoga room, because of course it was, and so because I was the person. I'm not great at inversions. Yeah, I've been doing yoga for, like, I don't know, 2 decades or something, and I just don't love I'm not very proficient at them, but I was struggling, with headstand, and I remember very clearly asking this, right? "What is wrong with me?" And my teacher was like, "Who told you that? Who asked you that?" And it somehow that question completely flipped everything around in my world. And so now whenever I find myself in that space, it's a matter of like you said, there's nothing wrong with me. What's happening is you're in the way of choosing the belief that you are less than in that moment. So there's nothing wrong with you. There is a stopper. And so the invitation is getting to know what's underneath the fear, what's underneath the conversation that you are not having with yourself. One of the things that I'm always reiterating for my clients, or for like just women, or women in general, is remember, you're in a relationship with yourself, meaning you want to be courted.
Mm,
You want to be, it's kind of like, one of the biggest complaints that we have is like that our partners, whoever they are, like that they don't just innately know what it is that we want and need. Like they should just know that I want this for my birthday. But like, okay, fair. However, on the other hand, it's why? Like, don't they, right? And part of the reason why is because if there is no courtship, if there's no curiosity, if there is no like, hey, okay, I know I knew you yesterday. I don't know the you that you are today. So the you that you are today, what is that person interested in? And what does that person like? What is their turn on? What is the thing that they like? And so if you then you get the invitation to say, "Oh my god, I'm really into this new thing I really wanna do," or whatever. That way, that gets filed away and whatever. It might not be the best example, but for some reason, my mind really wants to go there. But you get to do that for yourself, though. So in other words, you get to be the one that's, like, asking, "Okay, I know that I enjoyed this. I know that this is like a thing that I've been like very passionate about. And so this feels different. So what is it that I can do to get to know this desire better? And how can I bring it to the forefront and in a very powerful way? And what is that choosing
mm,
going to look like? And sometimes that means the obliteration of things. Sometimes that means walking away from things. Sometimes that means a reframe. Sometimes that means exactly what you did, which is like that dig and finding what's deep inside so that it can come forth. Yeah, I love that.
we gotta go deep, and what I love about you that so many times that I've had you on our calls for our speakers, and there was a time when I said, "Sapha, I'm literally desperate for someone to host the call." I was like, "Can you take over?" And you took over some of the calls, and you go deep. You take these women deep into self-discovery and conversation and what truly matters. That depth that just breaks down the layers, bypasses the masks, and gets to the heart of it. I was like, and that's why I love having these conversations with you, because, and even just hearing you unpick what we were talking about, that to me is like soul food, because I'm I'm a semi introverted, so to speak. And as much as I love hosting events and I can hold a big space for a big audience, I connect the best in one-on-one. I'm able to open
Mhm.
up the best in one-on-one. And yeah, and this is such a just beautiful time for us to spend, and also invite our audience to have a little peek behind the scenes of what we talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
speaking of, anyone who's, like, in the entrepreneurial world will understand this in the frame of, like, how do I best express what I do, in the world of social media? So this has been, like, a sticking point for me, as you know, for, like, since before you and I met. And I finally got fit up, I think it was, like, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or something like that. I finally changed my Instagram to, like, "Yes, I'm wearing Jimmy Choos. Yes, we're going to the Unworld. Like, get on." Like, I'm just kinda, cause yeah, it's like the depths are my realm. I have 0 patience for surface level things because I think I lived in the surface for so long, and in fact, I lived so removed from reality through that surface level awareness that it's become my default setting. Like, I have to go to the underworld with you. I have to take you deeper. We have to explore these things. There's nothing, especially because I can't help but hear. I'll go into conversation with someone and I'll just hear the thing, and I'm like, "Ah, did you notice that you said this?" And then we can kind of explore it and see what it is. But I just love this so
Mm.
much.
But I think it's like it's not everyone that can hear the subconscious, because so much of our default settings, and even my story of why I do what I do, it was like a default setting. So when we speak about some things, and if we're not consciously aware of, we don't have anyone to reflect it back to us.
Mhm,
Um, it's so one dimensional. And I find a lot of, because of the entrepreneur isolation, and maybe being the leader and nobody's willing to tell you or reflect anything to you, it becomes so one dimensional. Also, it creates biases in us that
mhm,
we know the best, or you need women like you. People need women like you who can reflected back to them, that they can see certain things and patterns and call out their own BS. Right? And I feel like you're not afraid to call somebody out and tell them, look, I think you need somebody to come and tell you some truth right here.
A
Just
little
kidding.
bit. Oh, thank you. No, that makes my heart so happy, and it's true, and I need the same, you know? I think, we do live our lives very internal. It's the only way. You know what I mean? I can only
Mm,
ever live my life from my perspective. Oop. And you can only ever live your life from yours. So it's true that we often can't see the forest through the woods, so to speak. Like, you know, it's like we need sometimes, a lot of times, that mirror, that reflection. And so in fact, that was, I think, like the episode 2 of this season, if I'm remembering correctly. But we kind of talked about like the sense of, I know everything there is to know about everything, especially about myself, and I don't need anyone to, like, guide me or do anything, and I'm done doing the work. I'm, like, done healing, and how tempting it is to go there, and how, it obstructs our growth. But, I could talk to you for, like, 5, 6 hours, and we would just be fine, but I have to, like, start I have to start reining this back in. So, tell us more. I know you said a little bit, but tell us more about your book. Tell us a little bit more about Women Thrive.
yeah, of course. Thank you for the invitation to do that. I'd love to invite our audience to check out the Speaker Rise book. It will be available on my website. We had just pre-launched in London, so there's only signed copies you can buy right now off my own website because I want to prioritize direct distribution for our audience
Mhm,
with a bit of
mhm.
touch of my heart as opposed to just going straight on Amazon. So it won't be available on Amazon yet, but it's called The Speaker Rise, How to Rise from Hidden Voice to a Visible, Sought After, and Paid Speaker. So that will be available soon. But connect with me on social media. I am on various platforms, Raimonda Jan, or my full name, which I'm sure will be in the show notes. I'm on Facebook, Instagram to connect. And also through Women Thrive, there's a lot of amazing opportunities for women who want to share their message, their story, either being part of the Women Thrive Summit or live in person events, and many other things that we do, like writing books and just helping women to share their stories. So if you feel like I have a story to share and I need a platform and a safe space to do it in, then I'm your girl. Connect with me and let's have a chat.
Yeah, and you couldn't possibly be in better hands, by the way. I speak from personal experience, and like I said, I'm sort of picky as to where I go and where I invest my time and my presence and my energy. And I will say, to date, Women Thrive is like the one thing that I just like. It just fed my soul. It feeds my soul. It's wonderful, and I love watching all of the people that are in it because I see so much like light reflected back. So I think, yeah, absolutely connect with her. Like, you don't want to miss out. Well, so Ray, also too, a thing that I do with my guests, on the at the end, toward the end of the episode, is I like to ask them, um, what is your take on like how to live mindfully sovereign?
Own your truth and own your story. And that is going to truly liberate you of trying to live up to anybody's expectation of you because there's so much of that in this world. And as long as you stay true to yourself, you will live a happy, fulfilled, and liberated life.
Yes, I could not agree with that anymore. Like I said, I feel like we actually covered that pretty early on, but
Mhm.
I love the reframe. I'm so honored that you were able to join me today. So excited. And yeah, just thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much, Sapha. Honestly, I'm looking forward to hanging out with you more. And thanks for this opportunity to be on your podcast.